What a movie. Thank you very much for sharing it with us and for making it. Well, I'll start with maybe a bit of an obvious question, but I think we have to start from there, which is what inspired you to create this?
There were a couple of things. The first is the loss of my twin brother, Gary, in 2021. And the second really was that Cornwall has always been a place for me of sanctuary and inspiration and calm. You know, whatever else is happening in your life, you can go to Cornwall and it doesn't seem to matter quite so much.
So that was what started it. And how long did it take you to write the script, to get it right? Because I'm sure, you know, at least for me when I write, and I'm sure it's something shared with all the writers in the audience, you start with an idea, but then actually to get it right, it takes quite a lot of time, and it's more about the rewriting than the getting the first draft done. So what was the writing process and the creating of it?
So there's two parts of the creative process
Yes.
for me personally. So the first is the writing of the script, as you say. And I was lucky enough to be able to do a few read-throughs with actors, which helped polish it a bit. But then the luxury of being the director as well is that I was able on set and in the actual principal photography to improvise dialogue, to create new scenes from nothing. The last couple of days we filmed, we were working with our actors to come up with new ideas. So we had an editor that was editing in parallel as we shot, which was amazing, which meant we could see what was working, we could see which characters were starting to take your attention. And then we could create new scenes within our shooting schedule and work with the actors to create those scenes. So that improvisation gave us such freedom. Was it
a plan you had from the beginning, or at the beginning you thought, well, I have this script, I storyboarded it, and that's what I'm going to do?
So I always like to give my actors the freedom to develop their own language and you know, build the character from inside out and see what they come up with and collaborate with them to see what happens. So I always knew I would do some improvisation, particularly on set at the end of getting the dialogue we planned for. But what I didn't anticipate was how a couple of the characters in particular really shone and then inspired me as we were going along to be a bit more fluid and to explore different ideas, which was, yeah, it was scary. I think it was mostly scary for the script supervisor and a couple of the people who were going, I don't remember that scene, or where did that fit in? I said, don't worry, I've got a plan.
Yeah, I'm sure that their life has been quite a roller coaster in the production, knowing a few script supervisors that have, you know, they have to know what's coming and what you shot before. What do you think is something you've learned from the process that surprised you?
I think probably the thing I've learned most is that it's really important to lean in and trust your instinct, because when you're going along, everybody wants to stick to the script, everyone wants to stick to the schedule. But the thing about shooting in Cornwall in November and December, which is the depth of winter, nature has a different idea. So you had to be completely fluid. There were some days we would finish shooting and my production team would say, you know the plan for tomorrow? And I'd go, yeah, sure, we're shooting this. They went, yeah, there's a storm. We're not going to be able to get to that location tomorrow. That's not possible. So we would have to really be very inventive about, well, what do we do tomorrow? Do we bring another scene, or do we move those scenes inside? So really, that fluidity and that ability to be adaptable was the thing I learned is absolutely essential if you're going to film in the winter in Cornwall.
Yeah. So the scene at the end where they enter the ocean and they swim, that's winter.
Oh yeah, that is 14th of December in
that's
Cornwall.
Cold.
And
coming like, I don't know, I'm Italian, so
the original scene was going to be at Fistral Beach, and on the Monday before we shot that on the Thursday, my director of photography and I were looking at some new locations, and we were looking at the surf forecast and the weather forecast, and we went to that beach where we thought we were going to film, and there were 10-foot high waves. So I said to my director of photography, at that point my actress wasn't sure about going in the sea because she was poorly, and I said, well, you know, worst case scenario is I'll pop a wetsuit on. I'll go out there. He said, if you go out there, you'll die. You might want to find another location. So we did, and it turned out to be beautiful. Plus, it was a different part of Cornwall.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the other thing, that flexibility, that fluidity, and also having a crew that would trust you, that would go, okay, that wasn't the plan, but hey, this is going to work out even better.
Yeah. Is there someone in the audience that has questions? Because I have many, but yeah. Great. We have a microphone coming.
Hello, hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah Montrose. The only question, because I'm an actress, the only question I have is that what was the casting process for the actors that you have in the movie? They're all really nice and beautiful, by the way.
So it was a combination of, we did an open call on Spotlight, which was fabulous, and I looked at 3,500 self-tapes. And from that, so I'd be up most of the night just going through them, you know, yes, no, okay, I want to see more of that. And then we invited them to submit more self-tapes. But there was also an element of serendipity. And so there are a couple of actors on the screen up there who I was in conversation with about auditioning them. Craig Russell, who was playing Simon, he said, oh, I'm sorry, I have a film I'm making. And he was a Cornish actor, and I was trying to get Cornish actors. He said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to send you an audition because I won't be available. And I kept pestering him because I had a sense that he was good and I wanted to work with him. And then finally, on the Friday afternoon, he said, you know what, my film got moved. Yeah, okay, I'll record you a tape over the weekend. And I said, fantastic. And I was swimming at the Headland Hotel, and I'm short-sighted. And a guy in red shorts came up to me, and I was a bit like, and he said, are you Deborah Hadfield? My first response is always to say no, to be fair. And I said, yes, and it was Craig. And I was like, okay, how do you know what I look like? He said, oh, I found you on Instagram. And I went, uh-huh. I was getting a bit panicked. And then I thought, oh, I haven't posted that, I'm here. Pure serendipity. Him and his wife were there for their wedding anniversary. And I said, well, okay, we'll sit in the spa and we'll have a chat then. I already knew I wanted him, for which role I wanted him. So we had a little chat, and then at the end of the chat I said, yeah, I definitely would like you to play the Simon role. And while I was in the hot tub, I would always have my phone on me, I was sending his agent an offer. And then he said to me, oh, my wife's an actress. I said, oh, it's okay, we've only got one part to cast, that's Rose, that's the lead. But I'll come say hello. So I said hello to her. And what I didn't know at the time was that I already had his wife, who was using a different surname, professional name, lined up to do a self-tape for me. And when it came through, I loved it. But I thought, well, I can't tell my team that it's his wife because I'll think it's a setup. So I didn't tell anybody. I just let her audition stand on its own merit. And then we got down to a couple of actresses, and I knew that I wanted her, and everybody sort of said it was between two actresses, and everyone agreed, yeah, she's the strongest candidate, she's Cornish, she's got the right kind of look. And then I said to them, oh yeah, by the way, she's married to the other actor. And they were like, oh, okay, well that works really well.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that happened, which again, in retrospect, you think is very strange, and yet I think it did inform his performance to a certain extent, is that Craig, literally 30 seconds after I said I'd like you to play the part, I'm going to send you your agent an email, he said, oh, by the way, in March I had a brain tumour taken out. And it was amazing. And I said, it makes no difference. As long as you're okay, it makes no difference. So I think the pair of them actually enjoyed making the film together because they got to work together. They were in Cornwall, which is where they live and they love. And I think it's quite therapeutic for them on many levels because they've both been through such trauma. He's got the all clear, he's a brilliant actor, and he, despite all the challenges, he did an amazing job.
Yeah, I agree. Any more questions? Yeah?
Hi.
Hi.
I actually know Craig and Kate. We're
Oh
friends.
really? That's
So I didn't
small
realise,
world.
Yeah. Really proud seeing them on the screen. As I said earlier, what sort of influence, what previous films influenced you? Because there's some beautiful shots. I love the cinematography. Is there anything that just like, yeah, I want to try to emulate this filmmaker or this film that I love?
I don't know that the cinematography was something I necessarily had an inspiration about. I just knew I wanted Cornwall to look breathtaking. I wanted it to capture for me the way I feel when I'm there. That, you know, wind in your hair, that sense of almost blowing away the cobwebs, the sort of refreshment of the soul. But the movies, the two movies, I guess, were the influence from the story point of view, was Love Actually, because of the ensemble cast, and because it's a Christmas film. I don't usually make Christmas films, to be fair, but it was a Christmas film that is one of those, my all-time favourites, that you watch every year, and no matter how many times you watch it, it's still funny. And it's not comical the way, say, an American romantic comedy is. It's very British, you know, it's very subtle. So that was part of it. And then I guess the Bridget Jones' Diary in a little way, because of the chocolate and the female protagonist. I guess that was the other influence, really.
Yeah, it was a sweet film.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yes?
Hey, thank you. Congratulations for your film.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to ask, because in the film there are many locations, so I would like to know how did you do to finance the whole film, because it's like many locations, you know, the whole, it looks like it takes so long. How long also, the second question is, how long it took to film, you know, the whole production?
So we had 21 days of full principal photography. We also had a couple of pickup days. And again, interestingly enough, this film every day gave us a different challenge. And one of the challenges, we were planning to do some pickup shots either at the end of December or early January. And our director of photography, Tim Boydell, he did a stunning job. He broke his ankle and he was skateboarding with his youngest. And that was it, we couldn't do any pickup shots with him. But one of the many people I have to thank here is Dr. John Beaumont Carriage. He had been our behind-the-scenes photographer, and also we were considering him using as a drone pilot, but our director of photography, Tim Boydell, is probably, him and his company, one of the most famous sort of groups for doing drone photography around the world. He's just finished a Ferrari commercial, for example. He's, you know, very high-end. So I said to Dr. John at the time, we've got to give Tim his freedom, and so we probably won't need you. And then, of course, Tim broke his ankle, so it was back to Dr. John. And bless him, you know, I went out with him, about 50% of the drone shots you see there, including the opening shot, is by Dr. John Beaumont Carriage, who'd never done any drone photography for a feature film before. But back to your original question. We were filming all over Cornwall, and sometimes it was a plan, and sometimes, as I said before, it was making it up the day before, because, you know, we lost a couple of days we couldn't shoot because there were winds and rain, and then some days we just had to say, well, you know what, we're just going to do it, we're just going to go out. And there's a couple of scenes I watched back and I thought, I remember how wet and how cold all the crew were, but we had to be done, so we just carried on and did it. One of the opening shots you'll see was the fireworks and Kate playing Rose on the beach. Well, that was our first day. It wasn't a full day of principal photography, but it was on November the 11th. And we went down in the evening because that's when the fireworks were on. And there were no lights on the beach. And we found ourselves on the beach. There was only a tiny crew. And we knew exactly what we wanted. We knew what we wanted with her and the fireworks. It was all good, but it was all going to be over in minutes. It wasn't going to be long. And as soon as we got onto the beach, we got to the place where we wanted to be, and the tide was coming in. And by the time we started filming, at one point we were up to our knees in water, so we had to slightly reposition. So what we found with Cornwall, it was very important to go to as many different locations as we could, and then whatever we were blessed with or whatever we were challenged with, we just had to keep going, you know. And yeah, sometimes that was harder than others.
But now I have to ask, with these cold days and night, you need a hot drink. Were you drinking tea and coffee, or it was just hot chocolate?
I think we drank everything but alcohol officially. But the person I should definitely give a massive shout out to is our executive producer, Richard Barker, because he and I met randomly in a hot tub, obviously. That's
There's a lot of pre-production happening.
yeah, for sure. And when
to get ready for the cold of the shoot, I guess.
I'm going to go with that. But when I said to Richard I was doing this film, originally it wasn't going to be all in Cornwall. It was going to be in the Midlands where I'm based, and maybe just a couple of nice days in Cornwall. And then I said, oh, you know, I wish I could do the whole thing in Cornwall. So Richard kindly said, then come and we'll help you. I don't know that he ever anticipated quite what that would involve. He let us use his home. He was, as well as doing his day job, he was getting up at 2 a.m. to cook hot bacon sandwiches and homemade muffins. And he always made sure we had these hot boxes he would send to set with hot food in. And also he'd supply all the hot drinks and things. So it was no mean task, keeping people warm and fed and happy. But Richard stepped up.
Big round of applause. Any more questions? Yes?
I noticed, Deborah, that you have some beautiful music in your film. And actually I noticed that there's a lot of music in your movie. Was that an intentional decision from the beginning, or was that something that developed as you went along during the editing process?
I always planned to have a lot of music. Firstly, I have an incredible composer called Phil Mountford that did the score, and the score blew me away. He was sending me, like when I'd sent him the actual final cut, he was sending me sort of samples for different parts. We worked on the theme together, and it just blew my mind. But I also, again, deliberately placed 24 original tracks. Only one of those were actually written for the film. The others I literally tracked down with the help of some friends. There's a music publisher, Tom Morrison, and you know, between Tom and a few other friends, I must have listened to about 500 tracks. So I was looking for the tracks which fit what I wanted to say, because I think the temptation, and I'm very guilty of this, is that when you're making a low budget film, there's always the temptation to think, I'll put more dialogue in, but I wanted it to breathe. And for me, the way to do some of those scenes would only have worked if we got the right tracks. And we were just incredibly blessed with some of those tracks. And there's a couple in particular where Rosie's in her bedroom. I used the same amazing female singer. And those tracks already existed, but when I listened to them, I kind of knew where I would put them. And for me, music and sound is as important as what you see. Because you could close your eyes and you still might get the story. But yeah, it was music was always very essential for me.
Yeah. More questions? Okay, I have one last question.
Okay.
Again, I have to ask. Now, you know, we've been looking at chocolate for like an hour and a half. What is your favorite chocolate?
Cadbury.
Easy. Fair enough.
Yeah. I was born in the Midlands, and Bourneville, which is not far from Birmingham, is about 25 miles from me. And I was a TV reporter in a former life. And one of my first days as a reporter, although I was already had a very intense love affair with Cadbury's before this, they actually sent me to the Cadbury factory. And at the end of the filming, they gave us 2 bags full of Cadbury chocolate. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I thought that's it.
It was a great day.
It really was a great day, yes.
Thank you very much for the movie and for the chat. Deborah Hadfield.
And I'd like to say a quick thank you to Alida and to all of the people that have made this festival possible, because it's sort of days like this, those cold wintry days and getting up at 2 a.m. feels very worthwhile. So thank you for everything you've done to make us feel very special, and all the hard work that's going on behind the scenes to make it flow, and it's very polished and professional. So thank you, and thank you for all of you coming and sharing this experience. This is our world premiere, and it's an incredible special day for us.
Well, we're about to go out and network some more so that we can get to know each other, and you can get to talk with her and all the other filmmakers of tomorrow. So yeah, make sure you come and join us tomorrow as well. We start at 2 p.m. and we go on for the whole day. Screenings of short movies, pitch panel, award ceremony, you name it, we have it. Let me call up just Alida Pantone 1 second. It's always good to have a word.
Shall I copy that?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. It was amazing to have you as my first opening feature film. As I don't know, many of you may not know that this is the first time that Rolling Film Festival shows a feature film. So it was nice to have a film that actually supports the same kind of causes that we want to support at Rolling Film Festival. So to connect people, to stay inspire other people, and support each other. So that was a perfect film to open the festival, I think. And I hope many more films as this one will be submitted to the festival. So please go out and make your films, be inspired by our filmmakers, ask your questions, and I know I talked too much, sorry.
And stay focused.
Yes. 3 tickets left for tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm very proud to say we sold out first, and then Vue Cinema, thank you Vue Cinema, they upgraded to a bigger room so we could sell more tickets, and we're nearly sold out again, so I'm very
Very good. Excellent. So great.
I hope to see you tomorrow, and thank you for coming again.
Thank you.
And 2 o'clock bacon sandwiches.
Yeah, that's what